Chess pawn structure, when to trade and when not to. Have you ever found yourself wondering when to trade pawns in chess? It can be a tricky decision that impacts the entire game. Understanding pawn structure is key to making the right choices. Let's break it down together. Pawns are unique pieces that shape the game. They define the position and influence how your pieces move. A solid grasp of pawn structure fundamentals is essential for knowing when to exchange pawns or hold onto them. First, let's talk about pawn chains. A pawn chain is a diagonal line of pawns that protect each other. The base pawn is the weakest, while the head pawn is the most advanced. Attacking the base pawn can be a smart strategy. Next, consider pawn islands. These are groups of pawns separated by at least one file without pawns. Fewer pawn islands usually mean a healthier pawn structure. Now let's look at weaknesses. Isolated pawns have no pawns on adjacent files, making them vulnerable. Backward pawns cannot advance safely and are often targets. Doubled pawns are to pawns on the same file, which can create structural weaknesses. So, when should you trade pawns? One reason is to improve your piece activity. If trading opens lines for your rooks or queen, it can be beneficial. For example, if you can control an open file after a trade, that could lead to an advantage. Another reason to trade is to eliminate your opponent's weaknesses. If they have isolated or backward pawns, trading can make it easier to attack those positions. If you have a pawn majority on one side, trading on the opposite side can help create a passed pawn. A passed pawn is one that has no enemy pawns blocking its path to promotion. In closed positions where pawn chains block central pawns, you must think carefully before trading. Opening lines can sometimes favor your opponent's pieces, so weigh your options. Now, when should you avoid trading pawns? If a trade would weaken your pawn structure, like creating isolated or backward pawns, it is best to hold off. Also, do not trade if it opens lines that benefit your opponent. If your opponent can activate their pieces or gain control of important squares, it is wise to keep your pawns on the board. If you have a strong pawn chain, preserving it can maintain control over key squares and limit your opponent's mobility. In positions where you want to keep tension, delaying pawn trades can be advantageous. Always evaluate the base of your pawn chains. Attacking or defending this point often dictates the outcome of pawn structure battles. Consider the direction of your pawn chain. You typically want to attack where your chain points. When trading pawns, think about how the new structure affects both your pieces and your opponent's. Use trades to transform the position in your favor, whether simplifying when ahead or keeping tension when seeking dynamic chances. Making the right decision about pawn trades is a strategic choice that depends on your pawn structure and overall position. By maintaining a sound pawn structure and exploiting your opponent's weaknesses, you can determine when to trade and when to hold your pawns.